inspires a certain fascination. It's distant, it's secretive, it's mystic. We only ever see one side of the moon. We associate supernatural powers with the moon. There's the proverbial man in the moon. But the one thing that people have always dreamt about is traveling to the moon. Now in 2019, it will be 50 years since the first human being set foot on the moon. And this is exactly how the idea for this program came about. What do you think when you think moon? And most of all, how did it make its way into music? Traveling to the moon has always inspired people across the centuries, long before we actually went to the moon. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. In the 17th century, Cyrano de Bergerac wrote a book, Voyage to the Moon. And in the 19th century, Jules Verne wrote a book, From the Earth to the Moon, to which, in fact, the crew of Apollo 11 made reference when they gave an interview after the moon landing, 100 years after Jules Verne wrote that book.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And now there is a plan put forward by the European Space Agency for a permanent base on the moon, a moon village. And of course that will be implemented by many spacefaring nations working together peacefully. Flying to the moon takes about 3 days, in which we have, of course, plenty of time to look at the stars and space and experience the eerie feeling in space. Composers have always been fascinated by stars and space. For example, Gustav Holst, an English composer, wrote a song, Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is the brightest star in the constellation of Orion. And whilst we are listening to this song, we will see some beautiful photography by London-based photographer Gareth Davis.
On Betelgeuse, the gold leaves hang in golden isles for twice 100,000,000 miles, and twice 100,000,000 years. They golden and nothing stirs on Betelgeuse.
Many of the romantic ideas in music are also connected to the moon. Moonlight, moon gazing, romantic love, flowers that come out at moonlight, supernatural powers. All this also made it into music in many different ways. One composer who has written quite a few songs that are connected to the moon is Robert Schumann, who lived in the 19th century.
Schumann's song Mondnacht is based on a poem by Heine, which talks of the mystical union of earth and sky, of man and nature. And Schumann writes this into the prelude, which is a microcosm of those themes, with the bass starting low and the treble starting high, like earth and sky, and gently coming together. Until they coalesce into a unity, into one note. Of another song, The Lotus Flower, Night has fallen, the lotus flower is waiting for the moon to come out. The song starts with gently throbbing chords in F major. Transitioning to the dominant in C major, as she, dreaming, awaits for the night. And then Schumann effects a magical transformation into A flat major as the lotus flower opens up to her lover, the moon. It's a musical moonrise.
The moon has, of course, an effect on Earth. Its gravitational influences cause the ocean tides, the body tides, and a slight lengthening of the day. One song that shows very nicely that tidal movement is Benjamin Britten's Seascape. In there's a brilliant line written by W.H. Auden, which goes like this. Stand stable here and silent be, that through the channels of the ear may wander like a river the swaying sound of the sea. And as I'm singing this line, the melody rises and falls, which I think is perfect to show this tidal movement. The different alignments between Sun, Moon, and Earth cause the eclipses, solar and lunar. Eclipses have often been connected to some bad omen, to a threat from the gods, or some unpopular message to be delivered. To show the effect of an eclipse on a person's mind, we've chosen a piece from an oratorio from Georg Friedrich Händel, Samson. Samson was said to have supernatural strength, but he was betrayed by his wife and captured by his enemies and blinded. And to actually show his state of mind, he compares it to a total eclipse. Total eclipse, no sun, no moon, all dark amidst the blaze of noon. The first time the surface of the moon was observed very closely with the help of a telescope was at the beginning of the 17th century. Galileo Galilei published his observations in a book called Sidereus Nuncius, or The Starry Messenger, in 1610.
There's a fascinating parallel between the lives of Galileo and the composer Monteverdi. Galileo stands as a central figure in the transformation of the older system of natural philosophy towards modern experimental science. In a similar way, Monteverdi was a transformative figure in the progress of music from the Renaissance towards the Baroque. And like Galileo, Monteverdi was no stranger to controversy. His new approach was roundly criticized. Nevertheless, by the end of his life, the new style had become so well established that he could well afford to ignore his critics.
Another nice connection between the moon and music is, of course, that the spacecraft that landed on the moon is called Apollo. Apollo is the god of music and truth and prophecy and sun and light and many other things. To include Apollo in our musical program, we've chosen a song by William Walton called Daphne. Daphne is a nymph who's actually trying to escape from Apollo, who has taken an interest in her. And so she asked her father, the river god Ladon, to help her. And he's actually transforming her into a laurel.
I waded deep and began to parley with the youth whom I had signed.
As you can see from our brief lunatic journey, there are many aspects that actually connect the moon and music. So, what do you think when you think moon?
Les voilà. Le soleil a rendez-vous avec la lune, mais la lune n'est pas là et le soleil l'attend. Ici-bas, souvent chacun pense à chacune, chacun doit en faire autant. La lune est là, la lune est là, la lune est là, mais le soleil ne la voit pas. Pour la trouver, il faut la nuit, mais le soleil ne le sépare toujours lui. Le soleil a rendez-vous avec la lune,